This week on Talking Cinema, Julius
90s
and
sitcom.
Sean discuss 90s sitcoms. Which ones are their favorites? Which ones don't they like? They'll tell you on Talking Cinema, Sitcoms Edition.
Fantastic. Love that overdub of our new hire. His name is Malone Sean. We hired him last week to do dubbing for our show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Talking Cinema Sitcom Edition. And welcome back, Sean Malone, who's been missing in action for 4 weeks. 4 weeks now, actually. 4 weeks.
Feels like longer than that.
Yeah, man. If for those of you who don't know, Sean left off to Japan. He wanted to start the Christian religion in Japan, but it didn't work out. You should listen to Martin Scorsese. And,
I know. I forgot to watch Silence, and I went over there, and there was torture involved. In
all seriousness, welcome back, Sean. Sean went to shoot his feature film, which he cannot go too detailed into about it because obviously it's on the wraps. It's going to be a surprise, and you can unveil it in the film festival circuit. So we're excited about it. But if you want to share some of the experiences that you had shooting. Oh, I think we lost James. James, well, come back, James. If we get you,
there he is.
There he is.
So I'm having some connection issues. Don't mind me.
Okay. All right. So, Sean, give us a little glimpse as to what your experience was like shooting a feature film. You were the cinematographer for the film. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. I was the director of photography, aka cinematographer. We shot in the Central Coast of California, up in Cambria. Low budget indie film. Total of 17-day shooting schedule. We actually shot. Hey, what's up, Ferris? Good to see you, buddy. We actually shot a couple days in Burbank in April, and then we did 15 days up in Cambria, which is like a 3-week schedule, basically. It went really well. I mean, it was big. It was long days. We actually shot in an animal ranch. There were cows and sheep everywhere, because a lot of the movie takes place at a farm, at a ranch. So. The movie is directed by my friend Brody Gassar. It's called Greatest of All Tina, and it's about a girl who gets tired of life and decides she wants to be a goat.
Wow. Box office success right there. I can already see it.
Yeah.
Box office smash hit. No, I just that's all. I'm all kidding aside. That sounds great, man. I can't wait to watch it myself.
Same.
It's always great. It's always great to see colleagues and friends go off and do and fulfill their dreams. I ever since I met you, that was always been your dream, is just you wanted to light scenes and bring a flavor of old cinema back to the modern day because of your love for old cinema, just like our love, James, and our love for old cinema as well. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure James is as well. But I'll let James speak for himself.
Oh yeah,
James, looking forward to it as well.
He's frozen, man.
James
is like a Disney movie. He's frozen. So it was. It was a cool experience.
I'm having some weird connection issues. Sorry, guys. I'm hearing what you're saying though.
Oh, no worries, man. But it was a good experience. I met a lot of cool people. I met a lot of actors. I met a lot of new crew people. I met a lot of people involved in the filmmaking community up in Central Coast of California.
Cool.
It's a really tight knit community, as you'd imagine, because it's a kind of lower population area. So, I felt like it was a fantastic experience. It was simultaneously one of the most challenging experiences of my life, because you're shooting 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. But outside in the wind and the sun and the dust and whatever. But it was also one of the most gratifying experiences I've ever had. So looking forward to doing more. Another thing about it, what was great, is I reconnected with an old friend of mine from film school who came out to be our assistant director.
Oh, cool.
and a guy by the name of Phil Deshawn, and he wrote a really great script, and that he and I might be collaborating on here in the near future. And I may be directing his short script that he wrote, which I'm super excited about because. And I'll tell you guys more about that as that materializes.
Yeah, cool.
It's like the best short script I've. A lot of times someone sends you a script and you're like, oh, great, it's nice,
Yeah.
He sent me this script and I was like, wow, this is a great, like really great short script. One of the best short scripts I've ever read. So I'm super excited about that.
Wow. What's the, I know you can't, I don't want you to give away too much, but what genre does it fall under?
I'll just say it's a horror film, and it's actually set in the 90s, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Which
nice
is
segue, my friend. Nice segue. That's right, Sean. Tonight we'll be talking about 90s sitcom. A couple weeks back, before you left for your shoot, we discussed sitcoms dating from the 40s. I believe we started in the 40s, right? When television was new.
50s,
50s, up until the 90s, because we realized the 90s was like an explosion of sitcoms. So here's part 2 of that, and we're going to continue on and pick up where we left off. James was not with us in that first episode. You didn't really miss much, James, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of shows that I didn't watch back in the day, but the only reason why I knew about them was because of Nick at Night. Nick and I would always play old reruns of certain shows, and there were some shows that I did like. Sean mentioned Dick Van Dyke Show, which I never seen, but I was a big fan of Bewitched as a kid, so I remember that show. Brady Bunch was another one that I liked. I preferred that one over the Partridge Family, personally. And of course, I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy is a classic that I think it's safe to say that most people love that show because Lucille Ball was just absolutely timeless in her comedic.
As you guys know, I'm super into silent movies and, Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. And she was like the Chaplin or the Keaton of 50s TV. Like it's almost impossible to be 30 years older and not know who Lucille Ball is, even just from reruns, generation after generation. And she had that kind of just presence and comedic timing that those old comedians had that made her a legend,
And she was the one, her and Desi Arnaz, we got to put him into the mix too. They were the ones who created the formula. They've kind of solidified the sitcom formula that we see even to this day. Even to this very day. So that says a lot, and it's a testament to her and Desi Arnaz's, I guess, genius. Not just them two. Who was the person who also pushed it forward? It was a director, I believe, from a theater director.
I was telling you about, there was a guy you mentioned, but I was telling you guys, or you, Julius, about Carl Freund, who was a cinematographer who pioneered the multi-camera lighting approach and everything. But for Lucy, because Lucy wanted to do the show like that. I want to start this off hot and just say, let's all say top 3, don't even think about it, but top 3 90s sitcoms off the top of your head.
Oh boy.
Simpsons.
Julius.
Simpsons. Martin. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Those 3 come to the top of my head.
James.
I'm going to say absolutely The Simpsons, number 1. And then after that, it's kind of everything else is tied for second because I don't feel like I had enthusiasm for it when I was growing up. I watched a lot of Fresh Prince. I watched a lot of Friends, but I don't think I was ever consistent with them. Like I would come in, I'd see an episode, I'd dip out, come back a few episodes later, but I wasn't, I didn't have like that kind of must-see TV mentality for anything except for The Simpsons, which I watched every single day, twice a day when it was in syndication.
I'm going to say Seinfeld, number 1. For a long time, Seinfeld was like untouchable to me, the greatest TV show ever made. I held that show in such high regard. And the only reason I say in the past tense is because there's been shows since then that I've ended up, getting obsessed with or whatever. But so Seinfeld for me, Simpsons. Those two were contemporaneous in the 90s. Like I actually watched those in the 90s and loved them into the 90s. And then my third one is a show I only watched starting about 6-7 years ago, and that's Frasier.
Frasier.
I don't know. We can talk about it. We'll definitely talk about it. But Frasier to me was a show that whenever I'd see promos for it in the 90s when I was younger, I would be like, so what a dumb show. What a dumb guys, these dumb rich guys complaining about like their champagne or their caviar or whatever. And like I watch the show now and I just think all the performers are so funny. It's such a funny premise. It's great relationships on the show. So I'm excited to talk about that. But obviously we can all talk about The Simpsons, and I think Seinfeld a little bit. We're going to find some common ground there.
There has been a big... Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead,
James, I was just going to say that there's been a huge like resurgence in Frasier popularity in recent years. A lot of friends are like discovering that show or rediscovering it. And I just remember that show as a kid being the one that was like too sophisticated for me, but I would still watch it and laugh at the laugh track, even though I didn't understand the jokes.
That's what's funny about that show, though. It's kind of not sophisticated. It just sort of like has a veneer of sophistication.
Gotcha.
And their sophistication is something that you laugh at. Like their sort of elitism and sort of they've they don't. It's like the old joke about, hey, do you know how much a gallon of milk costs? They're those kind of people.
Right. Which, before I forget, I recently watched an episode of The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob's brother is on the show, and it's played by what's the name of the actor?
David Hyde Pierce.
Hyde Pierce. Right. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And it's just funny because it becomes kind of like a riff on Frasier. It's very good.
Okay. Yes, and that was the casting. I guess we're talking about Frasier now. So that was the casting, like, brilliant thing about Frasier is, when they knew they were going to continue Kelsey Grammer on to his own show and spin off from Cheers, and they were starting to put together that show, and they didn't even really intend necessarily for him to have a brother, but apparently David Hyde Pierce came in and read for something, and they were like, this guy, he looks like Kelsey. He's hilarious. Maybe we could write a brother into the script, and that's, obviously that's the direction they went. And sometimes Frasier, David Hyde Pierce was such a staple of Frasier. Sometimes it feels like his show, just as much as Kelsey Grammer's show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never seen this show. Once again, because like James said, it kind of went over my head a little bit. But I do remember the David Hyde Pierce getting most of the attention whenever I would see like anything involving like Access Hollywood or Entertainment Tonight. It was always like he always was mentioned the most. I forget what's this actor's name. I forget his name.
Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Kelsey Grammer loved that. The fact that David Hyde Pierce was getting all the attention from the show, but that I wasn't a big fan of the show because, like I said, I was like, it's not for me. But I understood why people dug it. And my wife, she's watching it. She's been watching it recently too, and she loves it. And I tried watching a few episodes with her, and I can't do it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not my cup of tea, I guess.
Kelsey Grammer has always been one of my favorite actors. Like obviously Sideshow Bob and The Simpsons. That might have even been my first exposure to Kelsey Grammer. And then of course I knew who he was from Cheers. Always loved him in Cheers. He's actually in a couple of Star Trek episodes or
really?
He was in one of the movies. He has like a really brief role. So I was familiar with him in different ways. He was one of my favorite actors. And then I guess that's no secret why I love Frasier. Interestingly, one of the things I hope we get to maybe at the end of this episode, maybe in another one, is 30 Rock, which I mentioned earlier how Seinfeld was the greatest show ever in my mind for so long. And now it's 30 Rock. But the episodes with Kelsey Grammer are among the absolute funniest, and they use him perfectly. But for what it's worth, his episodes of 30 Rock are some of the best.
I want to clear something here. I've always wondered, and I was never sure because I never looked it up. Is Kelsey Grammer American or is he British?
He's American. So he
wow, what an accent.
He kind of affects like what's called the mid-Atlantic accent, which is kind of an accent that doesn't really exist geographically, but that Hollywood actors in the 40s, like Katharine Hepburn or Cary Grant, would kind of speak in this manner that's sort of, hey, where are you from? You from New York? Are you from England? Or, and that's why they called it mid-Atlantic, because it was like half American, half English.
I see.
And Kelsey Grammer, especially as Frasier, he affects that mid-Atlantic accent, and sometimes like as Sideshow Bob. And
for a long time, I thought he was British. For a very long time, I was like, "Is this guy British or is he American?"
Awesome.
I can't tell. I can't tell. Where he's from, And I never.
I had that same issue as a kid.
Yeah,
I thought
and
the
he
same
was
thing.
great.
I didn't understand it. Yeah,
and he can sing. That guy can sing. Like,
and he can sing too. He's very talented. There's no denying that.
You remember when
I loved him in X-Men, the third X-Men movie as Beast, and I wish they would have given him a bigger part in that, because I thought he fit the role perfectly. But
well, and he was in the cartoon, which is why they cast him in the movies, because I think he played.
Oh, he's in the voice of Beast in the cartoon.
I thought so. Maybe I was mistaken.
Oh, now I have to look it up. Hold on. Keep on talking.
He certainly doesn't need the work. I mean, he has 2 syndicated shows.
No, the animated show in the 90s, in the early 90s.
Yeah,
but even by then, he was already in Cheers, because that was the 80s, right?
Hey man,
actors like to work, man.
If it's green, James, take it.
Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but real quick while you look that up.
I'll look it up.
That was probably my favorite episode of The Simpsons is when Sideshow Bob kidnaps Bart, and he says, "Any last requests?" And Bart says, "Can you sing the entire score to the HMS Pinafore?" And he ends up doing the.
I will send you to heaven before. I'll take you to heaven
I send you to hell.
I send you to hell. That was a great episode, man. I love that episode. No, it was a voice actor by the name of George Buza who did the voice of Beast in the animated show.
Okay, well, he
that makes more sense.
Fit that role.
He did. I thought he did a great, and of course, Sideshow Bob, like you mentioned. I always look forward to the Sideshow Bob episodes, because they're always going to be the most fun episodes, because of his ability, comedic timing too. He has very good comedic timing.
He also, I feel like he's doing kind of a play on his persona as Frasier as Sideshow Bob, basically playing this clown that's too sophisticated to be a clown, and that's kind of who he is on Frasier, which I always thought they were kind of in communication with. Full House, I watched it as a kid. I don't really remember. My thing with a lot of 90s sitcoms is that I remember the dynamics, but I don't remember the episodes. Like, I know what a lot of these shows are. I maybe I watched a bunch of episodes. I just don't really remember individual jokes or plots.
You know what I remember most about Full House is the kids would do horrible stuff. And then the dad at the end of the episode would just sit them down and go, "Now it's not nice to set the kitchen on fire. I just want to make sure that you've learned something." And they'd always be like, "We've learned, Dad." And it was like, so there was never any consequence or anything for anything they did. It was just like, "Oh, you're going to get a very nice talking to from Dad about how that wasn't smart to do, and next time you'll do it better."
Look at that. Look at those faces.
Wow.
Look at those 90s faces.
Wow.
If that ain't 90s, I don't know what is.
It's looking pretty 90s.
I wonder.
Very 90s.
This
but
is one of those moments where you're
Full
like,
House was another favorite of mine, surprisingly. I was. This is one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. I don't know why. I just thought it was funny. This guy right here,
Joey.
This guy right here was my favorite. My favorite character in the show. Looking back on it, I watched a few episodes recently, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, this definitely was a kid's show, because now I watch him like this isn't for for me anymore. But overall, I thought it was funny. I thought it had good messages too. Like you mentioned, there's always there weren't a lot like heavy consequences to like. There's one episode, for instance, when I think this character here,
Stephanie.
she got into a car and she reversed the oldie car into the house and it crashed into the kitchen. You remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Because she thought R was for radio. She wanted to turn on the radio, so she pulled it down to R, thinking it was the radio, and then she just stepped on him.
Common mistake.
Yeah. And I just like there's one episode that was really good too, where she had a high school friend or a junior high school friend who she got in trouble with her dad, and he was like, "Oh, now you're really gonna get it, aren't you?" And then she finds out that his dad beats him, and it ended up being this very heavy episode about child abuse and all that stuff at the house. So I think that's why I liked it, because I liked that they weren't afraid to sometimes take it there, which is my main complaint about most sitcoms, is that they don't take it to places where it needs to go sometimes. And since this was a family show, I like the fact that they actually did that a few times in the series.
Could this possibly be a good segue to the Seinfeld discussion? Because James is like, yes, please. Because
¿Qué onda, Max Santiago?
Because in Seinfeld, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld had a rule. This is why Seinfeld was like no other sitcom before it and almost none after it. And the rule was no hugging, no learning. So no matter what happened in the show, and this is my defense of Seinfeld for people like, oftentimes you get people like, oh, are you a Seinfeld? Well, at least in my mind, you're a Seinfeld person or a Friends person. I was a Seinfeld person. The reason being because the Friends were just as selfish and idiotic as the Seinfeld four, right? But on Friends, they tried to make you care about the friends and tried to tug your heartstrings to really care about these really selfless, stupid people. And on Seinfeld, they don't try to make you care about them. They just say, laugh at these people. They are selfish and stupid, and you need to laugh at them.
Oh yeah. These were terrible characters in hindsight. If you take away the laugh track, they're psychopaths. They're like still psychopaths, like sociopathic assholes. But the genius of Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld made it what it was, and it was hilarious. And of course, Kramer was the cream of the crop, man. Like this guy. This guy was the reason why I watched the show, was because of Kramer. I didn't care about George Costanza. I didn't care about what was her name in the show?
Elaine.
Elaine, and then of course Jerry. I didn't really care for those three, but Kramer, I was all about Kramer, man. Every week, Kramer. I want to see Kramer on my television. And
I'm going to go to bat for George in a second, but regarding Kramer and what you're saying, I talked to a gentleman named Paul Dooley, who's a character actor, comedian, and he made the remark that Kramer or Michael Richards was like one of those once in a generation actors like Charlie Chaplin or like Jerry Lewis, who is just such a brilliant physical comedian. Or Dick Van Dyke. We talked about Dick Van Dyke last episode that I was on. And he really is that like level of comedic talent. Like, I've been watching Seinfeld just coincidentally last few nights. I took a break from Frasier, started watching Seinfeld, and literally all my laugh out loud moments, virtually, some of them are George, but most of them are Kramer. But with George, I have to say, like, there was a period of time I thought George was the most brilliantly conceived and performed sitcom character ever. Like, I love
with that.
I love how singular, or just how
he's very repulsive and off-putting.
The scope of his and the depth of his repulsiveness is pretty impressive.
It's very impressive.
I agree with that. And of course, and you know what? And I'm not discounting the rest of the cast.
Oh no, they're great.
Even though Kramer was my favorite character, Elaine had her moments. So did Jerry, and so did George Costanza. But for me, Kramer was the one that I was like, man, this guy gets it. This guy was all about. And even the bloopers. When you watch the bloopers on YouTube, which I recommend you should do, even the cast can't be professional with Michael Richards. Like Michael Richards is a total pro, and he's just so good at his job that he busses up his co-stars because of how good he is with his comedic timing.
I know,
and you can see the annoyance in his face. Kind of like, dude, can we just please can we please go? Can we go? And I can imagine Michael Richards being really annoyed that his co-stars would just always almost laugh whenever he was in the scene with them.
I would pay money to watch Julia Louis-Dreyfus mess up lines and laugh. Like when you watch the outtakes from Seinfeld, her stuff where she busts up is like it just fills me with joy. It's so funny.
Yes, Ferris. Michael Richards was fantastic in
You
UHF.
get to drink from the fire hose.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie, James? UHF?
I have not. I've heard of the film. Is it with Weird Al, right?
Yes. It's a cult classic, man. You will love it because it has a bunch of movie references that you'll love.
Hell yeah.
And it's essentially just Weird Al Yankovic's music video without the music. It's essentially what it is. But
that sounds
it's great.
That sounds great.
I loved it. Yeah, I love the movie. It's one that still I watched it I think 6 months ago and I still loved it. I still busted up laughing. And I was like, man, this guy should have made more movies, but I guess he only had one in him.
I love Conan the Librarian.
Yes.
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? And then when he says, he's like, the guy brings the books back. And he's like, these books are a little late. And then Conan just like slices them in half.
Yeah, it was great.
James,
dude,
this is a future Talking Cinema episode. Like,
I think it has to be.
Watch you.
Yeah. I recommend you watch it. Well, now after you do your brother's wedding stuff, when you have more free time, rent it, watch it, and just bask in the glory of this 80s gem that is UHF.
I think we should cover it, to be honest. I mean, that would definitely give me an excuse to really watch it, pay attention to it, you know?
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to cover that movie because that's like that's another childhood staple of mine is UHF. I couldn't get enough of that movie growing up.
I did want to point out, though, that I've tried to go back and watch Seinfeld from start to finish, and I get really caught up and held back in the first season because it's a little bit rougher first season. But I did watch episodes as a kid, and I've watched the entire series of Veep, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is incredible on that show. She's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
And she's playing pretty much a more repulsive character than anybody on Seinfeld. But I just wanted to shout out that she's one of the funniest actresses out there. She's great.
Yeah, agreed. She's totally like I know I think I saw her in a dramatic role recently, but I'm not sure.
She popped up in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
That's it. Yeah, that was it. That was what I saw.
And she's kind of being set up to be like the evil Nick Fury, which I'm all for. I want that, please. So yeah.
I'm not a fan. She needs to stay funny.
She's pretty funny on the show.
But she's a villain. You know, it would have been. I don't know. That's just me. But I'm sure she'll do great because she has range. She definitely has
for sure,
range.
For sure.
Can I share?
So Sean,
this?
you wanna share this? Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Check this out, guys.
This clip from UHF.
Roller and Andes? Yeah. Got the delivery here for your next show?
Oh, great. What you got?
Well, let's see. Aardvark, flamingo, 4 porcupines, 2 armadillos, 3 badgers. Badgers? Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers!
You gotta find more clips. Sean, so we can share them.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I've never seen that movie. I feel like it's the kind of thing I should have caught on HBO as a kid. It would have been my favorite movie definitely ever. So it's very weird that I never saw it.
Very odd. It's try to find the you're so stupid scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But let's move on. So Seinfeld, yeah, I would consider Seinfeld up there for sure. Or actually, let's see. After that one, Max Santiago says, "Find the supplies." I don't remember that reference.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I thought
Find
that
the
was a
supply
sitcom.
scene.
There we go.
Okay, here we go.
These lucky contestants will win his or her weight in fish right here on Okay, let's play the game. We start with yesterday's winner, Miss Phyllis Weaver. Are you ready, Weaver?
I sure am, Cooney.
Okay, you'll get over there and spin the wheel of fish. Go ahead, give it a big spin. A red snapper. Very tasty. Okay, Weaver, listen carefully. You can hold on to your red snapper, or you can go for what's in the box that Hiro-san is bringing down the aisle right now. What's it gonna be? We'll flip the box. Let's see what's in the box. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Stupid. You're so stupid.
Woo! All right, let's not make this a TV
That seems like a shitty
episode.
game show.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Ooh, man. Do yourself a favor, James. Watch it when you can as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Makes me want to watch it again, honestly.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. So keeping on to the subject, I remember when the Seinfeld series finale happened, and I can recall how big of a deal that was, especially when the other networks even acknowledged it. I remember watching. I was a big fan of Dharma and Greg, which is another 90s sitcom show.
I remember this.
Yeah,
I
and
met
they
her
even
on
mentioned it.
I met her on an airplane once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How was she? How was she?
Oh,
Jenna
cool.
She was nice. She was nice. I mean, I was like kind of like, hey, I love your show, and she was like, oh, thanks. That was all it was.
Well, that's cool. Ferris is requesting the Rambo, but all right, Ferris, we'll do it, but in a minute. Yeah, and I remember how big of a deal that was, and I didn't know until I looked it up, and I found out that it was 20 million people watched the series finale of Seinfeld. Am I correct in that? 20 million people, right? Is that right, Sean? It was so long ago, I can't remember.
20 million people. Yeah, that sounds right. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, 20 million people actually stopped what they were doing on that night and sat down in front of their television sets and watched the last episode of Seinfeld. That's amazing. That's unbelievable.
And if we're speaking truth to power here, I got to say, and nothing novel about my opinion on this, but the Seinfeld, the finale of Seinfeld is when they finally jumped the shark, which was nice that they didn't jump the shark, in my opinion, until the very last episode. Let's see, ID Crisis, last Seinfeld, they all land in jail. Never thought that made sense. So I agree, ID Crisis. So with the finale of Seinfeld, I felt like, you remember that part where the plane was going down and they were all like, I think maybe Elaine said she loved Jerry and George was like, I'm gonna die,
Yeah.
I thought, man, they should have freeze framed that moment. They're all going down in the plane, they're about to die, freeze frame it, and you go ba-dum, boom, ba-dum, and you run credits. Like, that would have been a much better way to end the show to me than the subsequent trial of like, oh, they're saved, and then they break this Good Samaritan law. I understand like the poetic justice of the final episode, but that show wasn't about poetic justice. It was about, again, here's these stupid, selfish people. You can laugh at them. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think the mistake, I haven't watched the finale in a while, so I don't want to speak of things I'm not completely refreshed on, but I will say this. I think the mistake they made was, all due respect to Larry David, who I'm sure is watching our show right now. They did those last 2 episodes those last 2 seasons without Larry David. And,
that's right.
And then
That's
they
right.
brought Larry David back to do the finale. And I think that was a mistake because it just didn't match what they'd just been doing in the previous 2 seasons. And to be honest, it didn't even really match what they had done in seasons prior to that. It was just so offbeat, and it fell flat, in my opinion.
I think that was done on purpose, personally, because I know Larry David was one of those guys who likes going against what everyone wants him to do, and I think that's probably what he did that. Because in the beginning, it was very unsatisfying for myself as well in the last episode. But in hindsight, 2020, they deserve to be in prison because of how terrible these poor people were. You know, they were terrible. They're terrible human beings, but funny.
Did they break laws though?
It's not very funny. That's the thing. That last episode, they bring back all these characters, right?
Yeah.
From the previous times, and it just wasn't funny. It felt like a clip show, and it felt like, hey, remember this thing? That was funny. And hey, remember this? Oh, that was funny.
That's true.
Like, no, that's not.
That is true. Yeah. They did one episode, James. They laughed at someone being mugged. So they're watching a heavyset guy being mugged.
They're like on a trip out of state.
Yeah, and they started laughing at him. They were laughing at him as he was being robbed. And then as the guy took his wallet and ran off, he saw them laughing at him, and he went to the cop and he told the cop that what they did, and then they arrested him for I forgot what the name of the law was, but it had something to do with Princess Diana. Death.
It was a Good Samaritan law, which apparently
there you go, yeah.
Apparently, that was a thing that was passed in a state or 2 at that time, and they took that idea to be like, in other words, if you see a crime happening or whatever, and you have the power to intervene, and you don't do anything about it, or you don't help someone, you know. But yeah, anyway, let's not focus on that.
Encourage it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they were literally pointing and laughing at the heavyset man being robbed in the episode.
Which, you know, maybe in a way, like Larry David and Jerry were maybe pointing at all of us and going like, oh, you think these people are funny? They're actually terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I think most people knew that, but it's just the laugh track does work wonders when you watch a sitcom. So that definitely helped for sure.
But yeah, so Seinfeld. Do we want to say anything else about Seinfeld before we move on?
No, other than just that it was a good show. I wouldn't say great, but it was good. It was funny, and for me, Kramer was the one that made the show for me. If Kramer the character wasn't on the show, I more likely would not have watched this show. I may have seen one episode and be like, I'm done. I don't want to watch this stupid crap anymore. But Kramer was the one that did it for me. He sucked me into the show.
I've got one more clip to show.
He was definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
He was
Jim.
definitely the one that, when I was a kid, I think the one that I was drawn to the most, just because of how animated he was and how you can understand his physical comedy. So yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
All right, and sorry to disappoint Ferris, but I'm not going to share your clip. I'm going to share, in honor of Michael Richards as Kramer. I'm going to show one more clip here.
Well, we'll still pull up that clip for you, Ferris. Don't worry.
Take a drink from the fire hose!
That's right.
Okay, you ready? Open wide!
Oh boy.
Woo! I'm telling you, James. I'm telling you, UHF is on a different level.
What is it about?
God.
Is it about some kind of sketch comedy
it's
show?
Go ahead, Sean. You explain what the story's about.
The plot of the movie is Weird Al's uncle wins a TV station in a card game and doesn't care about it. And then his aunt is like, oh, you should let Al, or whatever his character's name is, run the TV station because he needs a job. So of course Weird Al and his best friend, who is just as kind of weird and strange as he is, go to run the TV station, and these are the shows that they end up coming up with.
And they end up being a ratings smash hit.
Right. And one of the best, and the commercials are great too. They have
the commercials are great.
There's a commercial in there for a store called Spatula City.
That sounds great.
All right.
It's great.
Sean, for Ferris, since Ferris is such a loyal viewer of our show, find that Rambo scene if you can so we can play it from. But
Sure.
While you're looking for that, I want to talk about one show that really, now that I think about it, I know I named Simpsons, Fresh Prince, and what was the third one I named? Martin? Did I say Martin?
Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, Martin. Those three were obviously near and dear to my heart, but one that I should have mentioned, but I didn't because I didn't think of it. But I really did love this show. It's Home Improvement. Whoops, where'd it go? There it is. This definitely Tim Allen, I think, was up there with Seinfeld in terms of like the amount of people who watched the show. But Home Improvement was definitely one of my favorites growing up because Tim Allen was hilarious. I loved his Bob Vila feud that he had in the show, and I loved his Home Improvement show within the show. How he just absolutely just terrible. What do you call? What was he doing? Home Improvement, right? But what's the title? What's the proper title?
Tool Time, right?
Sean?
Tool Time with Tim Taylor.
It was Tool Time, but he was the. Yeah, it was Tool Time. Yeah, you're right. And so I just like the fact that his co-host in Tool Time, Al, I believe his name was Al on the show.
I don't think so, Tim.
Yeah. Always like, I don't know, Tim, maybe. And then, of course, you will always get into a handyman. Thank you, ID Crisis, handyman. And every aspect of the show I loved, especially the neighbor, Wilson, was one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite television characters of all time because of the amount of time he was on the show, and he always gave Tim some great advice, great wisdom in the show, and this whole thing was great all around, and I was sad to see it go, but all good things have to come to an end, right?
This show, in my opinion, I agree with you, Julius. It was a really good show. It was a lot. I'd say I'd compare it to the Cosby Show in the sense that Julius has his own family sitcom going on over there.
No, I'm laughing because my wife's like, don't forget Heidi. Don't forget Heidi, okay? Because she was also a staple in that show.
Oh, Heidi!
Outfits. And I was like,
I love
yeah,
Heidi.
That's right. Everyone loved Heidi.
I couldn't believe I think Al ended up with Heidi, but anyway, this show was a lot like Cosby in the sense that it was a really well written show. It was really funny, but it had like a strong family dynamic to it.
Yeah,
it had sentimentality. It had more moral lessons, like the Cosby Show often did. It was really a family show in that sense, and it was the type of family show that, like, unlike Full House, when you get older and you watch it again, it doesn't hold your interest as much as an adult. But
right.
this show is for adults and kids, and I think it held.
The amount of cheese in the show was well balanced, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It wasn't overbearing. It wasn't like, it wasn't the kind of eye rolling like, oh brother, like they're doing this. It was actually very well done and very well presented, in my opinion.
Can say I really related to like the family dynamic on that show, and like unlike Full House, where I was joking earlier about like there were never really any harsh consequences for when the kids, like didn't do what their parents said or like lied or did all this stuff. On this show, there was they got some pretty serious like moments where Tim is trying to relay to his sons like, hey, this is how you be honest. You can't treat people like this, or those Boy Meets World was kind of like that too, where those sort of like it was just that it was strong on the family dynamic, and it was something I related to coming from my family.
I liked the running gag with Wilson. Like those are the kind of things I loved about sitcoms, were things like that where you never see his face. I don't remember individual episodes, but I do remember one where he carved a pumpkin and it was of himself, like a self-portrait, and he still had the fence that was
Yeah.
like in his way, like on the pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Cool. You want to show this last UHF clip, Julius?
Yeah. Well, ID Crisis commented here, interesting comment. Cosby was a positive family outlook, so was Home Improvement. It's why I didn't like Roseanne as much. Too depressing at the time. You know that I agree with the ID Crisis. I tried watching Roseanne a few times, and it was a bit. I know I'm going to sound like
a heavy show. Honestly,
very heavy show, and I think I sound like a hypocrite, but it was too heavy. It was a little too heavy for me.
Kind of a bummer.
Even though it was good, it was still a good show in its own right at the time. But maybe Roseanne could have done more of the drama and rather than the sitcom. But hey, you know, it still worked for her because the show was extremely popular. I remember once again, the last episode of the series was a ratings bonanza hit when it did air. So I do remember that. Roseanne
to me was like, it was probably more realistic of a family dynamic. Like, and not every family is the same, but
right.
Yeah, there were times when like the dynamics between the kids and the parents, and they'd say like, "I hate you" or stuff like that. Like, you would never see that kind of thing on a show like Home Improvement, even. But yeah, it was a good show. Roseanne was a good show.
All right, Ferris. This one's for you, bud. And for you, James.
Yeah, somewhere in California. Shall I keep going?
Forward it to the helicopter.
Yeah, with my
All right, here we go.
That is such a Naked Gun moment.
Yeah. That was for you, Ferris. Just for you. But yeah, Home Improvement for sure was definitely up there on my list as a great sitcom show. Watched it until the very end. And what's next? What was James?
I don't know. We ever really dug into The Simpsons, but yeah,
we haven't yet. No, we have not done that yet.
Was Home Improvement was on Fox, right?
No, it was
Maybe?
ABC.
Maybe it wasn't.
No, it was ABC.
Okay.
Fox did the reruns.
I don't know why Okay, because I distinctly remember watching The Simpsons weekdays and watching like Home Improvement. I think was sandwiched between that on the schedules, like Married with Children, or I think it was like Home Improvement, then The Simpsons, then Married with Children, then another Simpsons. So I watched a lot of Married with Children and a lot of Home Improvement between my Simpsons watching. So I did see a lot of episodes.
That's a good mix.
Shows. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. When I was a kid, I wasn't. My mother really disapproved of The Simpsons, but
Mine
it was
too.
never. It was one of those.
Not mine.
You're lucky.
Oh, I was lucky. Yeah, I was lucky that I had a liberal of a stepfather.
It was one of those things like I kind of got away with it barely. Like my mom would see me watching it and she'd be like, she'd actually be a lot like Marge. She would see me watching the show and she'd be like, you know?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, because as a kid, well, for me anyway, speaking for myself, I think my stepdad anyway, will watch it and he understood that a lot of the jokes that he got, I didn't get because a lot of them went right over my head. It wasn't until I got older is when I realized, oh, I didn't get that back then. Oh, wow. They actually put that in there. I didn't even catch it. So I think that's why he let me watch it because it was still, I guess, subtle enough, I guess is the right word. I don't know if it's the right phrase or not to describe what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, go ahead, James. I mean, go ahead, Julius.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that that's probably the reason why my stepdad let me watch it because my mom, she didn't speak English, so she didn't understand anything that they were saying. So that's why she saw cartoons. I'm like, oh, that's harmless. It's a cartoon,
right?
And it was fine. It wasn't like I turned out bad. I didn't, do anything crazy.
Well, I mean, that's debatable. I mean,
yeah, Bart Simpson was definitely a bad influence. Underachiever and proud of it. That's pretty bad, right? When you think about it in hindsight.
I think James is like a Disney sequel. He's Frozen 2.
Oh, I was wondering. I thought he was deep thinking there for a second.
Yeah, that's
just let it go, James. Just let it go.
That's James's Christopher Nolan face. Like after he watches the Nolan movie, he just sits there for like an hour and goes. Well, since this is like the James part of the show, but I'll say the best part of The Simpsons to me is so many good parts, but I love the visual gags and I love like the signs on the school and the things that Bart writes on the chalkboard and
right.
And that's actually on
Those
Disney
cool.
Plus. For a while, like you could watch the show on Disney Plus, but it was cropped. Like they letterboxed it, and they basically did not pan and scan. They zoomed into it to present it in 16:9, even though the shows were originally, created in 4:3.
So it cut out a lot of the stuff.
They cut out the visual jokes and like the signs on the buildings and stuff like that. But I'm happy to say Disney just fixed it, and you can.
Oh, it did. Okay, good.
If there's anyone watching and you've been frustrated by the Disney Plus presentation of The Simpsons, just Google, how to watch Simpsons in its original aspect ratio, and there's actually a fix in the Disney Plus app. You can deselect.
Oh, good.
Good. But that's essential to watch those early seasons to get all those visual gags. Let's see. Julius is texting James right now, so I'll go ahead and say.
Yes, ID crisis. Disney did something right for a change.
Yeah. The other thing I love. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to share this. We might get strike down. At this point, I don't care. So I'm just going to do it because we like to have fun here at Talking Cinema. And maybe down the line, if the channel gets monetized, I might hold back on this. But right now, screw it. It's one of my favorite gags in The Simpsons is when they always pay homage to the old films. And this was one of my top ones. And I wish James would. I'm going to give James a few minutes. Maybe he'll come back in. I want to watch this with James because I'm sure he'll appreciate it. But what I love about The Simpsons growing up was the fact that they always paid homages to old cinema, old great films.
Oh, yeah.
Jurassic Park, Westworld,
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane, Godfather.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. And I'll set it up just in case he comes back. But
you know what? Set up that real quick. I want to give a shout out right now to my dear departed friend Merle Regal, who was a professional crossword puzzle creator. He was syndicated in all sorts of newspapers, like the Wall Street Journal and San Francisco Chronicle and stuff like that. The man created crossword puzzles for a living, and he was well known in the crossword puzzle world, for people who like that sort of thing. I got to be friends with him because he lived in Tampa, Florida, and just through a friend of a friend, I met him and his wife, Marie. We became very good friends. Merle and I used to watch and then I promise this is going somewhere. So Merle and I used to watch, I'd go to his house, we'd have Chinese food, and we'd watch Looney Tunes.
Wow.
And he would tell me everything about the Looney Tunes cartoons, who directed them. He would show me rarities. And we watched old science fiction movies together, like Them, or, Day the Earth Stood Still, things like that.
Wow. That's cool.
He was such he was a brilliant guy, super kindred spirit to me of like common interests. And he sadly passed away a few years ago. But the reason I mention him is that he is the only person I know personally who was on The Simpsons and actually voiced a role when The Simpsons did their crossword puzzle episode. And you may remember Homer ends up creating a puzzle for Lisa just to tell her that he loves her. They had Will Shortz, who currently still is the New York Times puzzle editor, and my friend Merle. They invited on also for a cameo appearance, and it was Merle's lifelong dream come true because he always wanted to be a cartoon.
That's so cool.
So,
That's awesome.
yes, it's really cool. You can actually. Oh, you know what? I'll bring up the clip on YouTube. I'll
bring him up. And James, I don't know if you're listening while you're coming back on, but I'm going to show a few clips of The Simpsons because I feel like why not? And we might get struck down, but you know what? I don't give a shit anymore. So, and it plays right into talking cinema as well. This is why The Simpsons is such a revered in my opinion for me, and I'm sure for all of us too, and the people in the chat as well, because of their ability to pay homage to old cinema and popular movies. And this clip here is going to fit right in because next week, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to the show, we will be talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark because it's going to be the 40th anniversary of the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So next week, we'll be talking about that film. And hopefully you guys will join us then so we could discuss the film. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm excited to watch it again. I think it's been a few years now that the last time I seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. So,
it's aged beautifully.
It's so I can't wait. It's the mileage, guys.
Yeah, I can't. I can't wait to talk about that film because Indiana Jones is one of my favorite cinematic characters growing up. So tune in for that one next week as we discuss that. So here's the clip that I pulled up here. It's my favorite. And I'm sure it's James's and Sean's as well. So here we go.
Yeah, I remember this one. I figure if we talk over it, they won't take it down.
Yeah, we'll talk over it. We'll do a commentary over it. And the music cues, everything just worked out. in this little sequence.
And they give him his little cap too, which is appropriate.
Yeah, I know. It was just great. The darts.
Perfect.
And then, of course, the last second, save.
And the garage door. What kid didn't? What kid didn't?
And then the hat.
Indiana Jones garage door. Yeah.
And then the wave goodbye, and then of course Homer.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Homer's like, yeah.
Fantastic.
Incredible.
Fantastic.
All
Which
right.
is why The Simpsons, I think it's for 90s is up there as one of the greats. So let's see what Sean pulled up here.
So this is my friend Merle Regal guest starring on The Simpsons.
Well, I had a little help from this guy.
New York Times crossword editor Will Shortz. And master puzzle constructor Merle Regal.
I actually
wow.
wrote it, and I edited it. Now get back to crosswording.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
great.
cool. That's pretty awesome.
I miss him. I miss him a lot. He's a good guy.
Mm.
Well, that's good, man. That's a great story to share.
That's awesome.
We always like, mentors are always a good thing to have in your life.
Yeah,
especially
for
those
sure.
who teach you a thing or two about. Oh, there it is. We just got a claim. We were interrupted. I just got a notification. Due to a copyright match, your stream was interrupted. Bastards.
Disney.
That was
I
confusing
thought,
me.
I thought we were protected by the copyright laws here. Like, we're not selling it. We're not making money off of it. So what's the deal here? What's going on? Why are we being struck down?
With airplane
What's the deal with the copyright law in this country? Unbelievable.
I don't know, Julius. We'll have an entertainment lawyer on one time, and he can explain.
I think so. I think we should monetize this channel and hire an entertainment
we should.
lawyer.
We need to have our own attorney, our own Lionel Hutz.
Man. Yeah,
I'm Lionel Hutz. I'm Trevor.
Oh man, Phil Hart, man.
Yeah.
So
what
guys,
a treasure.
I'm sorry. I know we're bouncing all over the place.
It's all good. It's all good. It's that's what Talk Cinema is all about. Bouncing all over the place.
You just mentioned Phil Hartman. Makes me think of Chris Farley. And my girlfriend grew up in Africa, and she didn't know who Chris Farley was. And she's a little younger than me too. So like she didn't watch SNL during that time, A, because she was in Africa, and B, because she was younger. But the other day I was like, you don't know who Chris Farley is? So I showed her a clip of Chris Farley on David Letterman. He makes his entrance and he does like a cartwheel and he like throws a guy in a dumpster. And in total Chris Farley like probably had too much coffee kind of style. And she was so confused. My girlfriend was like, what is this? Like, what am I watching? So now it's been my mission like to introduce her to like some of that 90s SNL stuff and be like, no, it's funny, I promise.
Hold on, I'm getting some messages here from some of our viewers. They're saying that it went to black with the warning. Joseph McCorckle, Joseph, dude, why didn't you come on? He says he can still see us. Also, I think we're back on. Okay. ID Crisis says, did you know that Phil Hartman designed Steely Dan's AJA among other album covers? No, I did not know that.
I think it's Aja. I believe.
Aja, thank you. What did I say? Did I say AJA?
AJA.
I think it's AJ.
We're live. It's all good. Talk Cinema's live. Phil Hartman in The Simpsons was always the best part for me because he had a great voice, a great voiceover. He was a great voiceover actor, great comedic actor, had a great career ahead of him when he left SNL. I was looking forward to his career because I used to watch him when he used to come on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And he was always one of my favorite guests when he went on the Tonight Show because he always came on looking like a beach bum, which I respected. I was like, damn, this guy's cool. Like he doesn't care. He showed up. I remember one time I forgot what he was plugging. I think he was plugging that Schwarzenegger movie he did with that Christmas movie. I forgot the name of the movie that he did with Schwarzenegger.
Jingle All the Way.
All the Way.
Was it Jingle All the Way?
Was Hartman
about
in that
the
movie?
toy?
Yeah.
He played I think his neighbor or something like that in the movie.
Right, like a rival trying to also get the toy, right?
I think so. That was Sinbad. I think Sinbad was the rival.
That was a
Phil
bad,
Hartman.
terrible movie, but anyway.
Yeah, it was a terrible movie. But I think he was plugging that, and he came out, and he was wearing sandals. He was wearing blue jeans. He had a 5 o'clock shadow. His hair was all disheveled. And I guess he came on. He told Jay, like, "Yeah, I just got back from the beach. I forgot that I had your show." So I was like, "Dude, this guy's cool. I love this guy." He was cool, man. So he's sorely missed. Like I miss him dearly every time.
He also just played
I hear his
like
voice.
2 iconic Simpsons characters too, which
going
going back and rewatching the show recently. Just like very distinctive characters that have the exact same voice and yet it works. It's it's great, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking forward to his movie career. I was hoping he would make it as a
Did you
not a
ever
leading
see
man,
House
but you know,
Guest,
someone.
Juliet?
What was that?
Did you ever see House Guest? The movie with
No.
Sinbad and Phil Hartman?
No, actually, no, I never.
You
Yeah,
should
is
watch
that-
it. Yeah.
I should watch it. All right.
Yeah. That was a movie for like my brother and sister and I that it was kind of one of our staples, you know, that we really liked. The movie with Sinbad was filmed out here in Sewickley, PA. ID Crisis.
Wow.
Did I say that right? ID Crisis? Sewickley?
That sounds about right for me.
Yeah. James, did I say that right? Is it C?
Yeah.
I only know how to
James,
pronounce.
thank you. By the way, thank you for that, because I do need to be corrected every once in a while, so it's fine. It's fine. I don't get offended.
Just for all the
embarrassed.
Steely Dan fans out there, I didn't.
Yeah. I don't want the Steely Dan. I don't want the Steely Dan fans to come after me and hey, you mispronounced this guy's name. What the hell's wrong with you?
Guys, I think it's Steely Dawn. No.
Okay. But yeah, Simpsons. I think it's safe to say that Simpsons in the '90s was definitely peak Simpsons for me. I think after maybe 2001, that's when they kind of started falling off for me because they changed the writing teams. I'm sure you guys already know Conan O'Brien was a writer of the show for a while. A lot of great writers came through that show. Even to this day, I still think the first 8 seasons were great for me. I watched those and I watched them with. I still laugh out loud whenever I watch any of those episodes.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll go watch some of the new ones. You know, whatever the newest ones are on Disney Plus, and you know it's fun because you get to go like visit your old friends again, and they're having new adventures, and they have cell phones now, and it's I don't think the show is like awful. You know, it's not. It's still a good show. But it is hard to keep it fresh after like 30 years of making episodes.
Yeah, and I understand why the change was needed. Of course, there's South Park, there's Family Guy now, and they want to compete. They need to compete with those kind of shows. But I just feel like Simpsons for me in the 90s, albeit outrageous, it still has some heart to it, which is what I always loved about it. Is that sometimes you would have some great heartful scenes, in those episodes, and they don't have that as much anymore in the newer episodes.
I went
maybe
back.
You do. Go ahead, James.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I recently went back and watched like the first 9 seasons of The Simpsons, and I was kind of astonished by how every time I thought that the show was going down kind of a mean-spirited way, it would always take like a turn and become, heartwarming in a way that always kind of surprised me. And that show does have a lot more heart that it's given credit for.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's what I miss about the show the most is of course you could change because every writer is different, right? So new writing teams come in and they change the show, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that, but I feel like if they had just kept that heartwarming, that heart, I would have been able to tolerate it a little bit more than I do now. There's
an exception though. The Frank Grimes episode. We actually I just rewatched that episode. Are you guys familiar with that one?
Yeah.
The one where they kind of go out of their way to be mean-spirited because he's like a character that doesn't belong on The Simpsons. It's brilliant episode.
Do.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh man.
Oh,
you
should
never
watch
seen the Frank
it.
Grimes episode?
No.
Oh, dude.
Or Grimy.
Yeah, Hank Azaria voiced the character, and it was a one-off character, and it's like James says, very mean-spirited, but it still had its moments, in the episode. You should go out of your way and watch it on Disney Plus. Right? I forgot the name of the episode. What was the name of the episode? Do you know?
I'm not really sure. I don't really know, but you can easily find it because it's a hugely controversial episode, and it's at the time it was, and it's still kind of, I think, one that has a lot of kind of a mixed reputation.
Yeah.
But I always interpreted it as kind of being the show's way of responding to criticisms about maybe the satire on the show, how over the top it is, how unrealistic it is, and so you have a character that embodies all of those criticisms and just calls out Homer on all of his shortcomings. It's beautiful.
That's it. Thank you, Joseph.
Homer's Enemy.
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah,
Homer's Enemy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
It is
episode.
mean spirited, Sean, but it's still great because it's one of those episodes where like you're right, James. It kind of went off kilter a little bit for that one episode because it was very odd for me too. I was like, wait, what was the point of this episode? It's just to make fun of this one character, and I don't want to spoil it for you. You need to watch it.
And then kill him.
Huh? What? Huh?
I said, and then kill him.
What?
Yes. So you know the spoilers.
I'm sorry. I already looked up the Wikipedia article.
Oh, okay.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But you know what? I understood what the joke was, and now that James put it into hindsight, it was all the criticisms put into that, encapsulated in that one character, and pretty much just buried it, going, "Yeah, we don't care. We don't care about your criticism. We're going to still do the show we love to do, and that's that." And good for them.
Can we talk real quick about one of the great characters of The Simpsons, Monty Burns?
Monty Burns, yeah. What about him?
Just, the episode, they do the song parodies, and one of my favorites is when Mr.
See
Burns
My Vest?
No, that's a great one.
That's a good one too,
Wow,
James.
okay.
It's the one where Monty Burns does the Citizen Kane song parody, and
yes,
he's
so
like,
he's doing the retirement party.
A certain man whose handsome face and endless grace are known across the land. You know his name. It's Monty Burns. That's Mr. Burns.
That was great.
Yeah, it was for the retirement, right? It was for someone else's retirement party, and they sang that song.
And it's like a carbon copy of that scene from Citizen Kane. But I love how like they have so much fun with his sort of like turn of the century Rockefeller, whatever, like capitalist thing that's going on there. He feels like a character who's like 140 years old. It's great.
They also have another episode that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. I think it's his teddy bear. Is it Bobo the Bear or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is like his rosebud, and it's the whole episode is like a reference to Citizen Kane. And you guys were talking about this when I was cutting out, but I mean, so many movies that I would grow to love, I was introduced to on The Simpsons. There were jokes that went over my head, and then I would see the movies and I'd be like, oh, that's a Simpsons reference. Oh, I remember seeing that on The Simpsons. Just over and over when I went to go like back and look at older films.
Interestingly, I feel the same way about the show Animaniacs. Did you guys watch Animaniacs?
I did watch Animaniacs as well.
Yeah. Like Good Feathers, and so many the Jerry Lewis, nice lady, the Jerry Lewis stuff.
I think Spielberg cameoed. Wasn't he in one episode?
He produced it. He executive produced.
No, but wasn't he a voice in an episode? In one episode? Or
he was on a ton of episodes. I don't know if he voiced them, but he is on a lot of episodes.
He's a character in the show.
Yeah.
Okay, but you don't know if he did his own voice, I don't think
so. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only episode I remember was that he was on was when he was directing the Animaniacs, and he kept saying, "It needs to be very special. It needs to be special."
Julius, I think Kelsey Grammer did the voice of Spielberg.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think Spielberg was too busy winning Oscars in the 90s, so to be on a silly kids animated show.
He did produce the show. He went out of his way to produce a television show.
And I
think he just handed his name over.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, license his name out. Why not, right? So, we talked about how we love The Simpsons. Which 90s sitcom did you guys hate?
Oh,
because I have one that I'm very happy to share with you guys, and I'm sure my wife will love it too, and also my daughter as well, because they both love this show. They can't get enough of this show.
Oh no!
And I tried watching a few episodes, and I still hate it. But I will admit, a few episodes in the first season were actually pretty good, but after that, it fell off for me. And that show is this hunk. Or actually this heap of hot, flaming, dumpster fire crap.
Called Friends?
Called Friends. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yes. This show I freaking hated, and I never could get into it I tried, guys. I really did. I'm not gonna say that I didn't try. I did, and I still hate it to this day. I can't get in. I just can't. I can't stand it. Can't stand it.
I will defend Friends, but please, yeah, go on with your hate fest.
I'm with you, Julius. I hated it when it was on. I have good friends who love it. One of my close friends is super into it, and also I love the show 30 Rock, right? And in 30 Rock, what are you laughing at?
Joseph McCorckle's comment. Did no one tell you life to be this way, Julius? Good one, Joseph. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I love 30 Rock, and they made so many Friends references and jokes on 30 Rock. I felt like I wanted to get all the jokes on 30 Rock. I didn't want any jokes in 30 Rock to go over my head. So I watched Friends from beginning to end just so I could get the Friends jokes on 30 Rock. But I still felt very similarly about it by the time I ended it. You know, I was like, yeah.
Ferris says the writing got better every season. Are you being sarcastic, Ferris, or are you being serious?
I will say,
well, I gotta defend this show, guys.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry if I come off as a populist here, but I mean, this show is the most popular show probably of all time, and it is for a reason. I mean, if you don't like the show, I understand. I was kind of reluctant to get into it for a long time. I watched it when it was on. When it was airing, and I would catch bits and pieces because I've never seen, there's very few things in pop culture that I've seen catch on like this, where I started to notice that all of my family, friends, my wife just adores this show. And people subscribe to streaming services just to have access to the show and watch it over and over and over again. There's very few shows and things in pop culture that have that influence. And I recently started watching it from start to finish, and because I watched I see the thumbs down. I see the thumbs down.
Sorry,
saw it the first time. Anyways, but no, I started rewatching it after the reunion special aired, and I don't know, it gave me a new appreciation for how they captured lightning in a bottle with that cast, and I think that really is the thing that works for me the most on it is it's a sketch comedy with these great actors and in their prime. I don't know. I think it's the full dynamic of the show is pretty great.
I wish I could agree with you, James, because I got HBO Max for various reasons. One of them was because albeit I still hate the show, but I know my wife and my daughter watch it, so I got it so they could watch, because they like we're watching Friends every so often, which is one of the reasons why I got HBO Max. The other reason was because of DC comic stuff they were going to be there, and also the TCM stuff, which is what sold me on getting it. And I seriously, when I watch a few episodes with them, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see maybe I was a different age that time. It was a different time. I had a different mindset. Maybe I'll like it now. Nope. I would say probably the first season. I actually laughed more on the few episodes of the first season than I did on the rest, because I think they were a little bit more edgier in the first season. I feel they did. There was an episode where they were talking about size and they were doing this. And I was like, wait, what is this? And what season is this? And I found out it was the first one. So maybe they were trying to figure out what they had. They didn't know what they had yet. And then, of course, once they figured out what worked for them, then they changed it to what it was, which is something I couldn't like it, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's too vanilla for me. I'm not sure exactly. But
I could see that.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's just too vanilla for me, and it's not. And I understand why. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, I don't understand the people who liked it. Of course, I understand why people liked it, because everyone's different, right? Everyone has a different sense of humor and whatnot. I like my sense of humor to be a bit edgy, or a little edgy, that's right. Which is why I liked The Simpsons, which is why I liked Home Improvement. Home Improvement was still wholesome, but it still has some edgy stuff in it. And maybe Friends was just way too vanilla for me, and I couldn't get into it. Maybe that's what it was.
This was my issue with sitcoms even as a kid, was that I felt like they were too vanilla. I loved that The Simpsons was this satire that didn't have a laugh track, and it was so self-referential, and it referenced a whole lot of things, made fun of a lot of things, that when I'd watch normal sitcoms, I'd had a hard time getting into them. And I think only now, going back and appreciating the process of making those shows, because I didn't really understand the production of them at all. I didn't even think they were really done in front of a live audience. I thought that was everything was just a laugh track. But yeah, I don't know. I think watching the reunion episode made me appreciate the show more, made me want to go back and rewatch it start to finish. Even though I will say I thought the reunion show was kind of a disaster and was more depressing than anything.
Yeah,
But-
you think so? Here. This guy also thought the same thing, James.
Yeah.
That's a funny episode, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a funny episode. Yeah. I enjoyed that episode because I was young. Not anymore. Death hangs over us all.
Is he supposed to be Matthew Perry?
Yeah, funny episode, yeah.
Well, no,
I didn't actually watch the reunion show, but from the preview, it looked a little bit heavy.
There's
my wife and daughter watched it and they loved it. They loved the reunion episode. I thought it was going to be an actual episode, but I guess it wasn't. I guess it was just a roundtable thing, right?
It was a, in my opinion, a huge missed opportunity. They did some really interesting things where they brought the cast back to the sets. I think they reconstructed the sets completely the way that they were. And there was some really great stuff about them reflecting in a more, in just more of like a casual improvisational way that I thought was really great. And I wish they'd stuck to that format. And then they roll in James Corden to do this live thing in front of a big audience. And it becomes a complete train wreck from that moment on. And not my favorite.
Yeah, I was under the impression it was going to be an actual episode.
It should have been.
Of Friends, you know, and maybe not so much that they're staying in the same apartment, because that would be sad if they stay in the same apartment at the age they're in. But
I don't think they can afford those apartments anymore in New York.
Yeah, I know, right? But I was thinking maybe they were gonna reunite in that apartment because they were gonna tear down the building or something like that and replace it with something else. I wasn't sure. I don't know. I was just thinking like that it was gonna be an actual episode, but it wasn't. But I think wow, we've gone for over an hour and 20 minutes, so we haven't even scratched the surface on the 90s stuff yet. We still have other shows like Fresh Prince and Martin and also Married with Children. We forgot about Married with Children. So we might have to split this yet again, into another parter down the line. We had a lot of fun talking about sitcoms. The people on the chat also had a lot of fun talking about sitcoms and sharing their thoughts about their favorite sitcoms. So thank you guys for that. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and tell your friends about this channel as well. If you have friends who like things about sitcom, pop culture, or films, subscribe to Talking Cinema on YouTube, where you'll see us three talking about our favorite movies, what we don't like, what we do like. And just now, I just revealed that I hate Friends, so now everyone knows that Julius Freeman hates the show Friends and it wishes they could die a slow, painful death.
You're going to be canceled for that.
I'm alone in that one, so and that's okay. It's okay. So so we'll have to split this to another part. So next week, guys, we're gonna cover the film Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the 40th anniversary. It's very exciting. I can't believe it's been 40 years since the movie has come out. It came out, I think, a year before I was born. I think it was 81 or 80. Help me
81.
out here.
81.
81. So a year before I was born. Once again, it's a movie. It's a staple of my childhood, and it still holds up to this very day. Ferris, we will have to do UHF review soon. Our friend James has not seen the film, and it'll be interesting to see what he thinks of the film once he watches it. it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be a good one once we watch that show. The week after the next, we're gonna cover the film AI, directed by Steven Spielberg and written and produced by Stanley Kubrick. It's gonna be the 30th anniversary, James, or 20th anniversary?
20th.
The 20th anniversary of its release. And if you guys don't know, now you know. Us three are huge Stanley Kubrick fans. We revere and admire his work, his body of work. And down the line, we will definitely dedicate a whole month to Stanley Kubrick because his body of work is just, there's so much to unpack with his film. So he deserves the entire month onto himself. So yeah, with that said, guys, thank you for joining us for the 90s sitcom special. We'll do a second part to this because there's a bunch of other ones that we did not cover today. And then we'll go further. We'll enter the 2000s and talk about the sitcoms that came out then. So any last words, departing words before we leave, Sean?
Your friend slander just derailed his enthusiasm.
You know what?
I think so.
I did have one last thing to add, which is there's one Friends episode I really, really liked, which is where Chandler, to shake the girl that Janice, he tells her he's moving to Tunisia, I think. And then the entire episode is like a comedy of errors where he has to keep doubling down on the lie. And the episode ends with him literally getting on a plane and flying
Yeah, I remember
to Tunisia, or Yemen. No, it was Yemen. That's what it was. And I love that episode, maybe because it was the most Seinfeldian of all the Friends episodes. I also thought Janice, and these are my hot takes on Friends, I thought Janice and Chandler, they belonged together. And I thought it would have been great to actually have them end up together. And then I think regarding that Yemen, I know
I'm just messing with you, Sean. Come on, man. It's all fun and games.
And then that on the Yemen episode, I thought it was a huge missed opportunity because the following episode, Chandler's like right back there in the mix. He's just part of the crew again. And I thought it would have been so great if they had just left Chandler out of that whole next episode. And the whole episode, they could have been like, where's Chandler? I don't know. Where's Chandler? And then he could have showed up at the very end of the episode, just completely harried, like he'd just been through hell. And it would have been hilarious, but instead they just wrote him into the next episode like nothing happens.
You should have been a staff writer, Sean. Maybe the show would have been tolerable for me if you had been a staff writer for the show.
It's one of those things like
maybe the one person who doesn't like the show would finally like it if he had written for it.
That 20 million, it would have been 20 million people plus one.
Okay, yes. I'm starting to pick up on the sarcasm here. Like, the most popular show of all time, Sean. You think you could have written a better episode? Got it, guys.
No, for me, the audience of one. Because I understand the popularity. I understand. I could recognize that Friends was definitely a very popular show. And I'll give credit where credit is due. They deserved it. So that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that it should never existed. It's just, it wasn't for me.
You don't deserve to exist.
And if everyone else liked it, hey, cool. That's cool with me. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me at all.
All right. So that's my last word.
James.
Yeah, I do have one last thing that I want to say, which is that as soon as we get off of here, I'm going to go watch Friends.
And you know what? I think to spite me, after I get off here, I think my wife might be watching Friends. Just to spite me.
Watch the Yemen episode.
I'm watching them in order. I can't wait to get to that one. But yeah, I remember that one, and it's a great gag.
I wouldn't know.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Join us next week for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and stay safe out there. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye, everyone.